Welcome back to Honest to God, the podcast.
We here. What is this? Halloween week? No, this is not Halloween week. This is the week before.
This is the week before
Halloween week, so we don't have anything spooky.
Yeah, make sure you guys go celebrate Halloween at your local church, worshiping God instead of worshiping Satan.
Bro, I'm just there for the Snicker bars.
No, that's facts, though.
Like, I'll tell you what, growing up, like, trick-or-treating and stuff like that, we didn't really know any, like, the rich neighborhoods. Thank you, rich people. But, man, when I had some friends that knew the spots to get some good candy bars, it was...
The gold mine.
It was lit.
You go by once an hour because there's been so many kids, they've forgotten you.
I changed costumes.
Oh, yeah. That's the move.
No, I never did that. But I wish I did.
You know what, Ricky? You know what I think about that?
What do you think about that?
That's not very authentic of you.
Oh, my gosh.
To change costumes, to lie?
Oh, my God.
To live in a facade to get an extra Snicker bar?
Sometimes.
If only you were more truthful and more authentic about who you actually are.
Sometimes you got to be Princess Elsa, and sometimes you got to be Prince Charming, all right? To get what you got to get, all right? And I wanted them dang old Snicker bars. Them Snicker bars were great.
Well, you know...
I also like Three Musketeers, Milky Ways, Babe Ruths. You probably don't know anything about that.
I do know about Babe Ruths.
You don't know anything about Babe Ruths.
Those are actually kind of good.
Yeah, they're pretty fire. Reese's double stuffed.
What are those?
Reese's double the king size.
What are those ones with the number 5 on them? Take 5.
Take 5.
Take 5.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, you don't like Take 5?
No, they're stupid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, authenticity.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about today, right?
That's what we're talking about.
The power of it.
Not switching costumes and going to the same house over and over again when you're trick-or-treating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ricky, you're going to learn a lot from today's episode.
Yeah, I just been living this life of fakeness and lost. Like, I'm imitation crab meat right now.
Oh,
okay?
no.
I'm not even the real crab meat. I'm like imitation crab right now.
Actually, I kind of like imitation crab, so I can't be mad about you for that.
Just dip some of that in like some soy sauce.
No, for real.
Okay.
Okay.
Anywho.
So on the topic of authenticity.
Yeah. What does it mean?
What even is it?
You tell me.
Well,
asked you.
I asked a dictionary.
Okay.
Because I could define words, and they're probably gonna maybe sometimes be right. But I figured, let's just go to the source of word definitions.
Which dictionary are we using?
Merriam-Webster.
Oh, of course.
I feel like that's the one.
Merriam.
It defined authentic, the word, as this: not false or an imitation. Imitation crab.
Yes.
Not an imitation crab.
Delicious.
True to one's character.
Mm.
I feel like that is just so powerful.
Yeah.
Not false, not an imitation, not fake, but true to the character of who you are. So in a world of people...
In a world where... Sorry.
Where people...
are fake.
Are fake. No, really, though. Being
They're
Christians... Barbies made of plastic, who identify as Christian but don't live the lifestyle. How important is it for us who do really have our lives submitted to Jesus to live the lifestyle? Because not only are we setting an example for the lost, the people who don't know Jesus yet, but we're actually setting an example for the people who say they are Christians but don't live an authentic version of their faith.
Yeah. What do we say to them? Is that what you're asking?
No, I just like finished a statement.
Oh, you finished the statement.
Yeah, like,
no, it doesn't.
But I mean, I guess it's a question.
No.
Oh.
You didn't ask if it was a question.
I can make it a question.
No, but yeah, so authenticity. This is such a it's funny, but it's not really funny, but it's like, yeah, like it happens. Like, we have tons of people out there that say, oh yeah, I'm a Christian, but then they actually don't really like follow by the faith or like actually like truly like practice of being a Christian or anything like that. Or you know, they say like, oh hey, like I'm a Christian because like my mom's a Christian or my dad's a Christian, so like I'm a Christian, you know.
Yeah.
Or you know, or really they just say I'm a Christian, but they're the ones that are like doing things that they shouldn't be doing. You know, like they're around a lifestyle of a sin that's surrounded by, and they're not really surrounded by like a redemptive community of any kind, like any kind of holy community. Like they're surrounded by people that are always in like really like maybe dangerous situations for them to where they can be tempted. And I think 1 John 2, 15 and 16, really gives us a clear direction of the world and how we operate in it. And it says, do not love this world nor the things it offers you. For when you love the world, you do not have the love of the Father in you. For the world offers only a craving for physical pleasures, a craving for everything we see, and pride in our achievements and possessions. These are not from the Father, but are from this world. So how do people who think they have the love of the Father in them, but yet go around living a life in love with the world come to exist? And it's like you can't have one, you can't have both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
you can have the world or you can have Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that those people, and I mean, because they exist. Like, it's like when some people are like afraid to go around identifying as like a Christian because, like, well, if you actually do follow Jesus and you actually do live, opposed to the world, well, then just saying the word Christian, like, somebody could have preconceived notions or have already prejudged you based off an experience they had with a Christian. Like, whether they were actually authentic and actually true to following their faith in Jesus, well, who knows? But like, I feel like that, like, the way that people end up living a lifestyle like this really comes down to like it's almost like they were led on almost in a couple of different circumstances, like being born and raised in a house that was like, we believe in God.
Yeah.
But they never really like walked that out. Or like maybe you grew up in church and then you started going to college, you moved out of your house with your family, and then you started living your own life. But you wanted your Sundays back, so you stopped going to church.
Right.
So, but you went growing up.
Yeah.
So you feel like a Christian.
Sure.
And you to some extent had God in your life. So like now you go around living you are now living your life separate from your family with that growing up. And so like it's almost like that experience, you feel like you have roots in Christianity, but that's all they are, is roots. Your foundation has become yourself. So like, how important is it? Well, I think it's pretty important for us and for anybody listening who really does know Jesus and really wants the people around them to know Jesus, to not just be bold about their faith, but to live it like unapologetically and authentically. So if you're talking to somebody like that, like in like, for example, like we both work in secular environments, like I don't know how often you get asked like questions about your faith, but like for me, like one of the questions I get all the time, like from my coworkers or like just people that like know I'm a Christian, is like, are you allowed to curse? Because like I know some Christians do, and I know some Christians don't. Yeah. And I'm like it's like those types of questions. It's like I know some Christians do and some Christians don't. And I'm like, I think that right there is boom. Somebody who's not in the faith has had an experience with somebody who says they are Christian, and now they are asking me if I'm like the Christian that they've had an experience with. So like I think that is why authenticity is so important. Like when you get questions like that, like, because I'm sure you do. How do you feel? How do you respond? And does it like emphasize an importance on like, man, I really need to be like careful about how I'm walking out my faith because like these people are watching.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we're being watched all the time, and immediately when we say like, oh, hey, like I'm a Christian, like immediately the atmosphere changes right away in the sense of like, oh, they're watching to see where we mess up. You know, they have these like I can't think of the word on top of my head right now, but they have like these ideas of like, okay, if I hear him curse right now, that means he's not actually a real Christian. He's actually fake, kind of thing like that. And that's not always the case. But some of the things as well, like we think about the generations and what's moving on in like the Christian movement as well, like Gen Z and Gen Alpha, like they're looking for realness. They want to see people that are preaching, live and do things, right? I mean, that's what it seems like. You know, for me as like a millennial and stuff like that, a lot of times I grew up with this idea that my parents were going to work so hard to where I didn't have to work really, really hard. Like I was going to get everything that they wanted and stuff like that, and that was going to be passed down to me, which then created a lot of unhealthy lifestyles and
Yeah.
habits that can happen to my generation, going and being raised through that kind of mindset. To where we get the stereotypical, like we're really spoiled. We get the stereotypical that like we have everything, and then we don't. But then we have to hold this facade that we do, and I think a lot of times that can also translate into how we live in our Christian life as well. Like we have everything together, but actually we're broken, really, really broken, and no one knows that we're really, really broken. And I think vulnerability is a huge thing as well, like in the Christian faith, of being real. And it's hard because we have this stipulation or like this image that because we're Christian, like we are already, like we're supposed to be perfect and have no issues, no flaws.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And
and that simply isn't true. But there's also like, but and you can hold that tension because you've submitted your life to Jesus.
Correct.
And there's the tension of, I know I'm not perfect, but I know I have to walk this out. So it's a different thing, though, when we talk about somebody who identifies as a Christian but doesn't live the lifestyle.
Right.
Because they're going around and taking this image of Jesus
and
honestly just rubbing it in the dirt, like tarnishing his name almost, because they don't understand the weight of what they're carrying because they haven't submitted their lives to God. Like they don't have that like you and I have. So like it's easy for you to be like, okay, well, like yeah, of course I'm not perfect, and like look at all these flaws, look at my past, like. But there's a tension I hold because of my relationship with Jesus. Like, yeah, we all have before Christ days, like where we probably did and said things we shouldn't have. But it's like a huge alarm or like a huge thing, like red flag that goes off to me when I'm like talking to an atheist, and like I was with a friend of mine who was an atheist, and then he had a friend who was an atheist, and like I've been trying to like minister to him and like talk about the gospel with him, and like his friend asked me like, oh, like you like know Jesus. Like, but like he was like, you know Jesus, but you like aren't actually like serious about all that stuff, like right, like you can come like hang out and like drink, do drugs, and party with us later this evening. Like he was almost insinuating the fact that like like you're a Christian, but like it doesn't stop you from coming and doing this because like I have Christian friends, and something that my friend said to him was crazy. He just looked at me and goes no, like he's like actually a Christian. And I'm like, I was just like was so disappointed. Like
being called like you're an actually a Christian, like
there's a difference.
That's crazy.
Like people like oh, there's Christians who like aren't serious, and then there's Christians who are. Like he told his friends, he's like no, like Michael isn't like that. Like no, he's like for real. And I was just like, that just kind of like blew my mind almost. Like kind of like when we're talking about this, it's because we've submitted our lives to Jesus. There's a tension we hold. How dangerous is it with people who don't understand that?
It's extremely dangerous. And I think at the same time, like there is this ideal that living a life for Jesus is unrealistic. Like there's no way you can actually reach it. There's a documentary like The Untold Stories of like the Swamp, and it's following the Florida Gators with Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow and all that stuff. And in the documentary, it's on Netflix if you want to watch it, at least for now. It talks about the character of Tim Tebow, and I know there was this huge speculation that happened with Tim Tebow during the time of his years in like at University of Florida and all that stuff. And like he's not a real one. Like he's not a real Christian guy of any kind. And like from the documentary where they said like no, like he legitimately denied a lot of things that like the world would believe, like, oh hey, like it's okay to get drunk, like it's okay to go to these parties, it's okay to do these drugs, it's okay to go to these strip clubs or something like that. And Tim was like, no, like that's not for me. Or like even to the point to where like someone would like try to show him a photo of something that was scandalous or like a video, and he'd be like, come on man, like no, what are you doing? And so like he'd be like, that's not okay. And so that, like living in such a real way to where like he truly other people saw him as like he was always in his Bible. He was always praying. Man. He was always, he was always seeking God. For unbelievers or people who live in the world to say that about someone and be like, no, that's what's real. Yeah. He was able to impact and reach so many people in that way. And I think our generations are looking for stuff like that. And I think we're finding out a lot of like there is a clear difference between those that are like, hey, this is not real, and the ones that are really genuine. And the sad thing that we see is that the ones usually, and this is an assumption, from what I see at least, from my perspective, the ones that are the loudest are the ones that truly are not actually following Jesus. And we see that in the world that they see this and they believe everything. Like we think about Westboro Baptists or so, like the things that they're doing. We think about the fire and brimstones that are happening on the side of the road and all that stuff. Like people that are not really loving or anything like that.
Yeah.
And we see this and we're like, man, they're just throwing stones.
Yeah.
And so with that, and it's like, oh, man.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
No. I mean, I like everything that you just said. Like even with what Tim Tebow was like, man, there's a cost to that.
Absolutely.
But, like, is the cost like worth it? Like when you were talking about like, it's crazy to think that people who, it's crazy to think that people who identify as Christian but don't live the lifestyle are the loudest ones.
Absolutely.
Are the loudest ones.
Yeah. At least it seems like it.
Like like I love Jesus. Says that while smoking their vape and throwing down something else. Like I don't know, but like. It's the people who've actually laid their lives down to him that are afraid to go into a coffee shop, open their word, and start reading, or are afraid to be around their friends and be like, "No, I don't do that because of this." Like, what a honestly, it's a disappointing parallel that the people who lack the seriousness of Jesus are the ones who are talking about it and the ones who are setting the example for all of Christianity, and yet. The disciples that are consistently pursuing Jesus are the ones who are the most afraid to be public, to be bold about it. And like I feel like Tim Tebow is a perfect example of what that actually looks like.
Yeah, he was bold. He was bold in his faith.
Exactly.
He was always talking about how like he put God first over everything. And like I don't know like Tim Tebow and all of his stories and all that stuff, but at the same time, like he's also human and he had his struggles and he had his issues and he's not perfect.
Yeah.
He's not a perfect person. He's not Jesus. And we know that, but he was always to the point of if he did do something wrong, he was always coming to God.
Yeah.
He was always coming to Jesus. Like how many of us are truly doing that? Or how many of us are so comfortable in living in a lifestyle to where we've come up with some kind of justifications for the things that we do that maybe are not even right? Like, man, there's so many different things out there that like we have allowed to become like idols of ours or like gods to us our own. And I mean, we kind of like look at our Bible or we look at like Jesus and we're like, yeah, like that's just like a Sunday thing or like, oh, like, yeah, that's just like when I can get to it kind of thing, And I think we're going to talk about more in our like next episode that we're going to when it talks about like the digital world and all that stuff and like how much do we put into time with Jesus, but like, it's crazy, and it is like we're counting the costs, like we're counting everything. We're talking about like our reputations and how like it doesn't matter. Like our images are like what sometimes the language we use is like lowering our kingdoms to build God's kingdom higher. Like putting that first.
Yeah, it's crazy that like the church going disciple making Christians are more concerned about their image relating to Jesus than the people who don't go to church who don't do any of those things, but just say they're Christian, don't care about their image. Like, oh yeah, I'm a Christian, let's go party. Like, they don't worry about what that will do to their image because they still partake in worldly lifestyles. But here we are. Here are I would say probably, I mean, I feel like a lot of church going, a lot of like daily disciple kind of people more concerned about the image of themselves than bearing the image of God.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Crazy.
Like, is there no greater image to want to carry? Like I don't. Something that just blows my mind about Tim Tebow is like, he was in a I would say a football locker room.
Yeah.
There's probably not a lot of holy things going on in a football.
Probably
locker
not.
room.
I mean, it is the Gators. I know there's some FSU fans out there that would say there's nothing holy over there. So, but we think about it like, and man, it's not that it's easy.
Yeah.
Because to follow Christ and to like to be real about it, that means you have to die to yourself daily, every single day,
every day,
and if not like every second, you have to like the own pleasures. Like it's not like, and we know like right away, and we hear this all the time, like, oh well, being a Christian is not fun and all that stuff. It's like, man, you have no idea how fun it is. We get to have like queso and chips and stuff like that. Real. It's so sick, but at the same time, like, no, like it's a serious thing. Like we are dedicating our lives and having faith in God and
it's
believing and submitting to Him and trusting in Him. And yeah, that does mean that I have to lower my pride. Like, yeah, that does mean I have to be humble.
Yeah.
Yeah, that means like when I boast, like, yeah, I boast in the Lord and in myself. Like, if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't have the abilities and the skills that I have.
Agreed.
You know, I wouldn't have the wisdom. I wouldn't have the mind that I have. You know, I wouldn't have this life without God. I believe that. I believe every second that for me to be able to breathe is because of God.
Yeah.
And at any minute, he could just be like, okay, you're done, Ricky.
Yeah.
Time to come home.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah.
Tell my wife, please. Something, but
yeah,
it's hard because, and then, like, the thing, like with Tebow, he was on a stage, he was on a platform.
Yeah.
And to still be real like that and to be true to his character and to believe in God and then give everything to God as well is awesome. It's a great example.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
it's inspiring.
It shows that he cares more about. He shows he has more confidence in God than he does in himself. I think that like he really imitated the walk that Paul sets for us, the walk that Jesus sets for us. I think that Ephesians 5:1-2, honestly, just kind of like I feel like pairs really well with what we're talking about with Tim Tebow.
Right.
It says, "Therefore, be imitators of God, as dearly loved children, and walk in love, as Christ also loved us and gave himself for us, a sacrificial and fragrant offering to God." Be imitators of God as dearly loved children. Like, you are the child of God, so imitate God. I think that what authenticity really does is it emphasizes love and kills confusion.
Yeah, it's good.
Like, authenticity, when you are authentically living your faith, people don't question consistency with your character and the truth of who you are for someone else that they've seen call themselves a Christian. Like, authenticity really does emphasize the love of God and kills the confusion of why don't other Christians live this way? Because you become the prime example of, oh man, they really are a Christian. Like, the scripture even says, like, they will know us by our fruit. Like, it should be evident at that point. And I think that that's really, like, honestly, probably our greatest evangelism tool is being authentic.
Right.
Like, you want people to come to know Jesus, don't be fake about Jesus. Step into the reality of he is your savior, and you want to walk the way that Jesus walked. You want to be public about it. Like, don't be afraid to be authentic. Because if you are truly being authentic, then you're just going to be loving people.
Right.
And nobody can have anything to come at you that is going to kill that. Like, I imagine that's how Tim Tebow probably felt. He probably loved people.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
When you're loving people, like, people can say anything to you. But when you love people to, like, that degree, you're not gonna. It's not gonna trip you up. It's not gonna mess up your game, because you're just loving people.
Yeah.
Oh, what? You hate me? I'm still gonna love you.
Right.
Oh, what was that? You hate my outfit? You hate my hair?
Yeah.
You hate what I post on my social media? I still love you. Like, that is Jesus. Like, that is exactly how Jesus lived, and like how powerful that is for like whether that's in your work environment, your personal environment with your family, or a church environment. Like, the authenticity, like, man, emphasizes love and kills confusion. It's crazy, and I think that that Ephesians verse really sums that up well.
And you talk about how, like, especially when you're in, like, a secular world, and when it comes to, like, work or just you're in the world, right? Like, we look like how God, like, Jesus has called us to live an authentic life, like, to be really true. And we see this as, like, a ministry opportunity. And we realize, like, no, that is the ministry. Like, living authentically is ministry to people. That's why Tim Tebow is so curious. They're waiting for him to fall, but he didn't.
Yeah.
They're waiting for him to slip up, but, like, he didn't.
Yeah.
Right? Like, in the same way, like, there's tons of people out there, like, that we'll meet, atheists or people who don't believe in God. Like, they're just waiting for that moment for when it's like, okay, Ricky's going to slip up now.
Yeah.
Well, Michael's going to slip up now.
Yeah.
And, like, when is it going to happen? It is an opportunity for ministry. No, it is the ministry.
Yeah. It's ministry in itself, because what are we called to do? Love God, love people. What does Ephesians say? And walk in love as Christ also loved us. Authenticity is loving people. And if that's what we're called to do, that is the greatest mission that Jesus mandated us.
Yeah.
Love people, bring them to him. That's what authenticity does. And, like, that is, man, how important that seems to be all of a sudden.
Mhm.
Like, oh my gosh, there's a huge weight to this.
And it's a surprise
Yeah.
when it's, oh wait, you really believe it? Oh, you're a real Christian.
Yeah.
And I see it. Like I can see the disappointment, and I can feel the disappointment when it's
Yeah.
like, dang, like there really is a divide,
No, 100%.
and like people really feel that, and they're shocked when a Christian comes around and he lives by Christian values and really actually loves people and loves God and seeks Him. That people are shocked about the kindness and the love of it, and they think, and sometimes they even think that we're doing this for our own agenda. And it's like, no, like I just want to love like God tells me to love.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And like, don't get me wrong. Like,
Yeah.
I also want you to know the God that enables me to love.
Absolutely.
Like-
yeah, I want
like,
to know Jesus.
I want you to know Him.
Yeah.
That's a decision you have to make.
Mhm.
And whether you make that decision
I
or
can't
not,
make that decision for you.
like, it's not going to stop me from loving you too.
Absolutely.
Like, and I'm going to keep loving you.
Absolutely.
And
I'm
then
going to be annoying.
You're going to say no the first time.
Annoyingly
and
loving
you're going to
you.
be like, why is this guy keep loving me? Why does he keep caring about me? Why does he keep asking if
Yeah.
he can pray for me? I don't believe in God.
Yeah.
Like, boom.
I
They just give me
remember-
no a second time.
I remember this story. It's blanking on me right now. Who said this story? But someone was. I don't know if it was at a conference or something like that. And the speaker at the time was praying for their sister, and their sister knew how big their faith is and how real they were as a Christian, so much to the point to where she called the speaker and told her, hey, I need you to stop praying for me because there's a bunch of random people coming to my door constantly trying to share Jesus with me. And it's like, man, how can we live
Wow.
like that to where the people that we know in our lives that don't know Jesus, that we can just be like, man, I'm still praying for you. I'm still like, God's going to come through and He's going to send people, you know,
Man.
and we just don't even think about the power that God really has when we pray. Like, prayer is powerful. And if there's one thing I can encourage, like, man, if you're a Christian and you're watching this, like, continue in your prayer. Continue just seeking God in these moments and continue believing in the power
Yeah.
of prayer and that God's going to move and He's going
Yeah.
to give you strength and He's going to get
Yeah.
you through all these things.
Honestly, that might be like, I don't even have this written down in any of my notes, but like,
Mhm.
that might just be your best practical step. Pray for
Mm.
people. And like,
Just pray.
ask your atheist friends, ask
Mhm.
whoever, how can I pray for you?
Yeah.
That might be the greatest way you can actually be authentic about your faith.
Yeah.
Not only get that from them, but actually pray for them
Yeah.
and tell them you're praying for them. And then when they see stuff start happening in their life, you're going
Mhm.
to get a phone call.
Yeah.
Stop praying for me. People are trying to share Jesus with me.
Things are wrecking.
Like-
Like wrecking my life
Like,
right now.
No, like, I don't understand. Your prayers are actually working.
Yeah.
Like, it's like stuff like that where like, how far are they to actually coming to know Jesus?
Yeah.
When they realize themselves that Jesus is moving in their life.
We have to trust that God is all powerful. Like, we have to trust that the God that we believe will make things happen, you know? And I think a lot of times we operate believing that God is not the all powerful,
Man.
that we live in a way to where it's like, it is all of a sudden a curtain's going to come down. We're going to find out like God's not real. We can't
Yeah.
live like that as Christians. We have to
Yeah.
have faith and trust in the
Yeah.
fact that He is who He says He is.
Yeah.
You know, He is our Father. He is omnipotent.
Yeah.
He is all powerful.
Yeah.
Sometimes we fall away
Yeah.
from that idea and we think He's not.
Yeah, it's not on your power that any of those prayers come to pass.
Mm-hmm.
It's also not in your strength or power that those people's come to know Jesus. Like, that's all the Holy
Yeah.
Spirit. But like having the boldness to go, okay, I'm going to trust God to move
Yeah.
upon my actions. That's where I feel like you missed the mark. Like, authenticity is trusting God
Yeah.
to move upon you.
Yeah.
Like, so I go up and I ask somebody that, like, let's say they go, oh, I don't really want you to pray for me. Like, okay. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm still going to pray for you, but I just not know what to pray for you for.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's like having the confidence to not know how every interaction is going to go, but trusting that God's the one who's orchestrating the interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just saying something to somebody, don't doubt the fact that God's already starting to work on their heart.
Yeah.
Like, you go up to somebody and go, I want to pray for you. No matter what they say, the all-powerful God has just started moving upon their heart.
Absolutely.
Whether that's in a seed plant whether that's in a eye-opening, well, who knows what God is doing, but that's it. Like, if you're afraid to be authentic, do you actually trust God?
Yeah.
Like, or are you so caught up in your own self that you can't get past, no, I'm the one who does this.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's your pride. God's the one who does this. Do you trust him enough to be authentic about your faith?
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
I know. I just mic drop.
No, I'm just trying to think, like,
I'm just kidding.
I'm just thinking, like, man, it really does suck that we're in a world now to where it's always questioned, like, is this a real one or not? Like, and that
blows my mind.
Like, that breaks my heart. It breaks my heart to see
Seriously.
that. And, like, I just want people to really just experience Jesus. Like,
Yeah.
to see just the comfort that he brings. And even the uncomfort. And being a Christian doesn't mean that, like, hey, you're going to live a life of just amazing, like, rainbows and everything's going to be awesome. And anytime you have a hardship, you're going to run into, like, a case of pillows. Like, no, you run into a building sometimes. You run into a rock
100%,
sometimes,
100%.
you know, like, but the problem is, like, you have the guidance and the power of God to guide you through all those things. And, man, it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
It really, really breaks
there's
my heart.
such a weight to it.
Yeah.
Like, and, like, honestly, like, I feel like that, like, ironically, I feel like this is a really good place to kind of end the podcast.
Yeah.
Not, and I don't mean to end it on, like, a bad note, but, like, I feel like the way I want to direct this is, like, well, if you're listening to this, are you a real Christian? Like, would an atheist look at you and go, oh, wow, they're a real one?
Yeah.
Like, he's actually serious about his faith. Like, and if you're listening to this and you don't really know Jesus, like, do you feel challenged to take on that mantle and run at it yourself?
Yeah.
Because there's a responsibility on both ends, not only to believe the lost to come to know God, but also for us who know Jesus to actually be serious about it, to want to live a life that's different, to not be of the world, but to see the lost come to know him.
Yeah.
And, like, man, I feel challenged just by the weight of that. Like, it already makes
heavy.
me go, I need to set a reminder on my phone, like, when I wake up in the morning
Yeah.
to, like, be a real one. Like, because I'm going to run into people in my day, whether it's at work or at the grocery store or whatever, and I wear Jesus bracelets, I wear Jesus shirts, like, they're going to look at me and they're going to go, I've met a Christian before. I wonder what this one's like. And I hope that they see Jesus. You know?
Yeah. That's why you should just wear, like, plain shirts.
Yeah. I should just be in the shadows about it.
You should just shine brighter than the shadows of that plain shirt. But anywho, yeah, I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. I think it's a good spot to end.
Yeah. It's heavier, but it's intentional.
Yeah.
I feel like God is working something intentional there. So sit with that and, like, really, like, write something down. I feel like the Holy Spirit's
Journaling,
probably speaking to you
praying.
right now.
Probably.
Like, honestly, pause the podcast and listen to him. Like, like, stop listening to us. But please, I'd love to hear responses on what your experiences have been. Have you been challenged by somebody who doesn't know Jesus about your faith? And what does that look like?
Yeah.
But this has been Honest to God. I'm Michael.
Yeah, we'll see you guys later.
Bye-bye.